Hello and welcome back to SiGMA TV. Today we are featuring another guest speaker for the upcoming Malta Week on November. And joining me on the line, I have 10bet's Head of Customer Engagement and Training, Gali Hartuv, calling from Bulgaria. Gali, pleasure to speak with you and to finally see your face.
It's a pleasure being here. Thank you so much for having me.
It's great to have you here on the show. Not only you have a very interesting topic to share with our viewers today, you also have a pretty entertaining story on how you got into the iGaming industry in the first place at a relatively young age too. And so tell us a bit about yourself, what you do at 10bet, and the history of your journey in the space.
Sure. So I've been in the industry now for around 9 years. My current role at 10bet is as the Head of Customer Engagement and Training. Although most of my career has been focused on VIP operations and VIP operational management, developing programs for various companies around the world. However, now I've shifted more towards all customer-facing operations, support VIP and the behind the scenes of training and QA. What got me into the industry is quite a fun story. It started with a love of poker. So I learned how to play poker at around 14 years old or so. I used to play at home with my brother and my father. And as I got older and became legally allowed to play poker in tournaments and casinos, my father and I, we used to travel around the world. Always had a passion for playing poker, always had a passion for going to the casino. It was a bonding experience at the same time. And so that really got me into looking into the opportunities as where this could actually go. So rather than becoming a professional poker player, I started a little poker club, and we would host private tournaments and games in my home city, which is Cape Town in South Africa. And from there, it just kind of developed. And as I started getting more experience, I moved my focus towards sports and online sports. And here we are 9 years later.
That is amazing. And you ran a poker club for how long?
Just over a year.
Why did you decide to sell it?
I had a business partner at the time. We ran it together. And while my focus was trying to look at what else this industry had to offer, he was quite set on remaining in the poker side. And so he bought it from me.
That's very cool. And poker seems to have brought you very close to your father. And I wish I could say the same for myself. I mean, poker is such a great bonding activity, in my opinion. And I could imagine the amount of closeness I could have formed with my father if only he were to be into poker. But instead, he's into baseball. He's been playing since he was a kid, competed internationally for the Philippine baseball team. He's now in his 60s and he still plays baseball. So you could imagine the amount of pressure I had as a little kid. He wanted me to follow his steps growing up, but I couldn't even throw a ball properly. And he badly wanted a son. So I could say I'm a huge disappointment from the time that I was born. But kidding aside, we did bond it through sports. Unfortunately, baseball is just not one of them. No matter how hard I try, there isn't just enough passion in me for baseball to develop the skill. And in your case, you're already passionate about poker and you're already interested in it. And it's great to have something to call that is very personal between you and a parent. So that is amazing. Poker led you into the gaming industry. Now, Gali, talk to us about 10bet and the services that you offer.
So, I mean, 10bet's a global operator. We're servicing customers focused on sports and casinos. We've got quite a long history. We've been around for around 18 years now. So quite an extensive past. I think one thing that separates 10bet from the masses is the fact that we hold on to that identity of remaining boutique. We're not looking to commercialize or lose our identity and our personal approach towards our customers. So for us, I think 10bet is unique in the sense that we are that boutique global operator that's trying to remain with our core roots of 18 years back in a modern day climate.
Fantastic. Gali, I wanted to jump right in. Having worked in the African market and the European market, I'd love for you to identify the betting cultures in both regions and also some of the trends that you have observed.
Absolutely. So having worked the majority of my career in the regulated European space, monitoring Africa is, of course, of huge interest as the opportunities in the region are endless. So seeing these huge differences in iGaming between Europe and Africa, it's easy to really pinpoint and discuss some of those key differences. I think most importantly, when we're looking at Africa compared to Europe, with a lack of online casino presence in Africa due to regulations, bookmakers are trying to appear to be operating on a casino-like product. And the way to do this is through fixed odds betting. So what this basically entails is that customers can bet on a wide range of casino-like games such as blackjack, roulette, and even poker. And what bookmakers are doing is they are displaying the odds for each game. So customers are aware of what their potential winnings could be per bet. And with such an offering, we've seen a huge increase in these live casino first-person games or even game show style games because you have these fixed odds. But when we look at Europe and how it's developed over the last 10 years, Africa is substantially behind in terms of product offerings or regulations. I would go so far as saying that Africa is a solid 5 years plus behind where Europe is right now. And as we know, 5 years in the gaming industry is a lifetime. So if we try to identify additional differences between the two regions, it would be how companies are trying to overcome limitations. For instance, Europe's regulations tightening, or in Africa, the long-winded development and the adaptation to public engagement or social norms. So I would say, furthermore to those 2 points, we've seen significant expansion in Africa in both land-based sports betting shops, largely due to the trust or physical presence being a big focus in cultural adoption. And we're trying to see in Africa these diversifications between land-based casinos moving into online sports by either acquiring their own sports book or launching their own online brand. So using South Africa as an example, recently one of the casino groups in South Africa, Tsotso Sun, bought a local bookmaker. And historically, if we look at some of the other casino groups, like Sun International, they launched their own online sports brand.
And I believe there are huge cultural influences that impact loyalty. Could you outline some of the factors a little bit more?
Sure, without diving too deeply into the question, because we're going to be discussing this more at SiGMA in November, I'll break the summary down into a few key focus areas. So when operators consider how to engage European customers, the key focuses are service, bonuses, the ability within regulatory capacity to reward customers. Effectively, how far can I push the limit before it becomes unsustainable? At the same time, no operator wants to be buying loyalty. So Europe has long used its established reputations, offerings, technology, product diversifications to create an environment where operators can act as a one-stop shop. And in most cases, they do. Whereas in Africa, as we clarified before, there's loads of room for growth and opportunity within its developing regulations, as well as technological advancements. So looking at African customers, we can see a few distinctive questions then being asked, more towards the likes of, where can I get the most value for my money? And what more can you offer me besides bonuses? And that's where they start looking at the operators more in depth. So loyalty in Africa differs between these value segments. And those value segments per player are quite distinctly different to the European player segments. So overall, when companies are operating in both regions, they need to apply a different mindset in how they are creating these KPIs. You cannot apply the same player segments or KPIs in Africa as you would in Europe. It's completely different. And with that, you start looking as well at the market saturation. So both markets are equally saturated. Where you see bookmakers are struggling to offer unique loyalty offerings because what you've seen recently, competitors just simply copy each other. They make slight adjustments to the metrics to make it more attractive, and they pass it off as their own unique spin with a new name. So if you look at the target groups and you look at Africa compared to Europe, we're looking at how, say, the lower to mid value segment is focused on getting the most value for their money. Now, if you compare that to, say, the VIP segment, who are looking for more than just financial reward and incentive in exchange for that loyalty, they're looking at how operators can uniquely present themselves to be individual, personalize their offers, and how good that level of service is going to be. So trying to keep that focus ahead of where the market is always a huge challenge, because VIP in Africa, like it's become in Europe, it's not very public. So if you take that point and you compare it to the European market, VIP was always a flagship, like, unique selling point. But with regulatory pressure and the enhancement on saturated markets in terms of competition, like in Africa, the transparency of loyalty programs is becoming less and less. And that's what's led now to a new cultural adoption by customers to more test the waters. No one is playing at just one bookmaker or one casino any longer. They are testing multiple operators simultaneously to determine what or who is the best option for them. But I think I'll leave this question on that point, so that for those watching, when they come to Malta, to SiGMA, we can continue this discussion further. And if they have any questions after this, they can bring it to the panel.
Well, very insightful, Gali. And now, could you school us regarding the potential of that Africa holds?
Well, if you look at Africa as a whole, it's recently become a major focal point for many international bookmakers due to the relaxed regulatory requirements and the lack of available casino offerings, amongst other reasons. But while European bookmakers have to endure the constant changes and tightening of regulations, Africa is still somewhat in that gray area where operators have far more marketing freedom, or freedom to really take larger risks than what you would do in Europe. So it gives established international bookmakers a massive advantage when moving into the market, where they can really offer something different. So African bookmakers are usually chasing this quantity over quality. So if we want to use VIP as an example, very few VIP offerings, if you use the European standards, can really compete. So there's a massive opportunity to move onto the continent, approach high value segments, using the standards of international customer loyalty. And I think that's where Europe has really thrived over the years, where Africa is potentially lacking. And this is just one example. So where does Africa have huge potential? It's across the board, where Europe is 5 or so years ahead. We've identified the various points, and now they just need to come across, understand the market, and really apply it to extract that huge value that Africa really has.
Definitely, and the range of opportunities that exist in Africa is just wide and spectacular. You know, Africans are passionate football fans and are into sports in general, which makes this market very attractive. And we cannot wait to see what's in store, most especially when the market gets or becomes fully regulated. But speaking of regulation, there's no actual governing body regulating the gaming industry at the time being. So in your expertise, what should European operators consider when moving to Africa?
I believe the first and probably the most obvious point operators should consider is avoiding approaching Africa as just another region or extension of a European operation. Africa should be approached as a standalone region with many sub-regions that are wholly unique. There are many cultural diversity factors and historical influences in Africa that European operators should be sensitive towards and acknowledge before trying to assert themselves onto the market. So one example could be marketing in Africa is substantially different from European markets. Africa uses status and inspiration to attract customers. Their adverts could be around, for example, a group of people at the pub celebrating winning a bet and portraying this winning image followed by a bookmaker's name and details. Africa is a continent of many superstitions, so portraying luck and a winning charm really could go quite far. Alternatively, looking at the inspirational side, trying to apply inspiration as a strategy where adverts could simply be, if you take South Africa, where we are known for children that are coming out of a rural background, young boys playing rugby in the rural area, showing poverty in Africa. And moments later, this young boy runs out onto the field wearing a Springboks jersey with a caption like, we believe in you, so believe in yourself, and then puts the bookmaker's name afterwards. These kind of strategies are what the local customer base are looking for. They're looking for a bookmaker that's relatable, and they try to appeal to the human factor. So, of course, marketing limitation will be determined by budget. These are all things that are relative. But as we know, European bookmakers who have moved onto the African projects, they tend to carry more weight than their local counterpart, which has made the marketing side of Africa incredibly competitive, kind of like a Wild West, so to speak. But a huge factor that European operators need to consider is, as well, besides marketing, is who is your target audience. There are massive wealth disparities in Africa that may not be as present in Europe. So operators need to determine who their target market is before trying to break into a market. And again, I'll use South Africa as a prime example because it's home and I worked on this market. If you take the top 10% of South African earners, they account for 65% of total income earned in the country, while the remaining 90% of South Africans are earning only 35% of the total income. And when you look at how that wealth is distributed, that top 10% owns 93% of the country's wealth. So then when you're targeting the masses, that 90% only possesses 7% of the country's wealth. So these economic factors or wealth disparities and how it breaks into your target groups and player segments are huge focus areas that also need to be factored in.
Fantastic tips, Gali. And to the operators, better take notes in order to make potential a reality. So thank you, Gali, for the incredible insights. Your passion for the work that you do was felt, heard, and seen. And we cannot wait to learn more from you in the coming conference. So thank you very much for your time. And we look forward to seeing you in November.
Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you then in Malta in November.
And that is it for myself and Gali. We want to hear your thoughts. Let us know in the comment section below, and we'll see you in the next video.